We are at 20 participants, and I think it's a good time. And the people who join us, as I see them come in, we will apologize profusely and make sure everyone gets the information. But I want to say thank you to all of you who joined in and accepted my invitation to be here for this clerkship program. Heck, I think doing a clerkship is probably the best thing you can do when you graduate law school, because it'll shock you to know that you haven't yet learned everything there is to know about the practice of law. But there are many, many positive reasons to do a clerkship. So I want to give you an idea of what we plan to cover in the next half hour or so, which is why you want to do a clerkship, how you do a clerkship, and answer your questions about what you should be doing so far. Now, it may depend on what year you are in law school, because let me get a showing. Raise your little blue hands if you are a 3L or a 4E. Raise your blue hands. Anybody? We have a couple. Okay, put them down. Raise your hands if you're a 2L or a 3E, please.
Okay.
Most of you, put your hands down. Raise your hand if you're a first year who just heard about this and had to come. Okay, great. So it's all us grown-ups for this period of time. And the reason it's a great thing for us to meet is that even though we will meet individually with all of you, there's certain information that applies to everyone and will make your meetings with us more meaningful. Now, having said that, there are actually 4 faculty members who are on the clerkship committee. The 2 Levinson, Professor Levinson the younger and Professor Levinson the elder. But there's also Associate Dean Dudovitz, who's on with us right now, and then Professor Amy Levin, and they'll be doing the evening program. Now, the person really in charge of the clerkship program, and we don't kid ourselves, is Linda Wysocki. Linda, will you raise your hand, please? Linda makes everything happen, and we're really grateful to her. And the only thing that could permanently get in your way of getting a clerkship is not being good to Linda. That would be disqualifying, folks. So I hope that message is clear. All right, let's start, Professor Levinson the younger. Why be a clerk?
It is, in fact, one of the best jobs, if not the best job, second to being a professor at Loyola, that you can get. And you learn an enormous amount. So judicial law clerks are often called elbow clerks because you sit at the elbow, to the extent that it is possible in a post-pandemic world, with a federal judge. And you just can't replace that experience with anything else. When you go on to a law firm or a government position or a public interest position, your employers will be so happy to have you because they will know that you have this invaluable experience in doing what lawyers do, researching, writing, and getting an inside track to what really happens in a federal courtroom. And, again, there are different types of federal clerkships. You can work for a magistrate judge, a district court judge, a court of appeals judge, and then all the way to the Supremes. But there's no doubt in my mind that I would not have my current position if it weren't for my very first job out of law school, my clerkship.
And I agree with all of that. I want to say something more. It really does mark you as the best and the brightest. Everybody in the real world knows that the judges are picking people that they can really trust because you're almost sort of, as she said, sort of the judge's right-hand person in deciding it. And it opens the door to all sorts of opportunities. Look, I'm very odd. I never went to a law firm after graduation. I clerked and then I went to the US Attorney's Office, but so did my daughter now too. And it's one of the only other ways to get there other than putting in a lot of years in a library in a big law firm. So getting a clerkship is a phenomenal experience. I want to mention something else. You really get a mentor for life. Now you have us, you know that. You have us in your room as a mentor for life. But imagine having a judge who has all that life experience and that reputation and can provide that love and guidance. How great was my clerkship experience? Well, I named my daughter for my judge after he passed away. So we'll take questions on it, but I want to address a couple things that come up. I often hear people say, but if I go to a law firm, they really want me to come now and they're going to throw a lot of money at me. So do I still want to clerk if I'm passing that up? Professor Levinson, what do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Because one, you'll get at least that first year of credit at the law firm. Two, for the rest of your career, you have the clerkship on your resume. And three, I think Professor Levinson, you would support this. If the law firm won't wait for you, 100,000 other law firms will be so excited to have you after the clerkship. I remember at the, back, what was it, 35 years ago when I clerked, I just kept getting mail from from law firms, because they would look at the list of clerks in the central district and then they would say, do you want to come in and interview? Is there any chance that you could come in and interview? Can we come to you and interview you, on a bathroom break? If the law firm won't wait for you, it's not the right law firm, because again, you have to think about, it's the thing on your resume that people will forever look and say, huge box checked.
And if you think you ever want to teach or become a judge yourself, it's really an important credential, but it's really an important experience as well. Because the things you learn while clerking, unfortunately, we can't teach you all of those in law school. We can't teach you the level of thinking, the scrutiny of your writing. I know you all think after that first year writing assignment, you're ready to go. But the truth is your writing will be amazing. And that's why the law firms want you. So, I'm happy to answer any individual questions before we move on as to why to clerk. Here's one I do want to throw out. Sometimes I get asked, well, can I go to the law firm for a year or two, especially to pay off some student debts, and still get a clerkship? And the answer is yes. And in fact, there are many judges now who look for that type of practical experience. So you would actually apply in your third year, letting the judges know that you're going to go off and be an associate someplace, but want to be considered a year or two down the road. I would not suggest that you apply much later than that. For one thing, you're probably going to go out and buy a fancy car and then you have to pay that sucker off. But more importantly, the clerkship experience is made for somebody who's not too far out of law school, but has an understanding. And we work with people all the time, alums, and even if you've graduated and you come back to us, we never go away. We're always there on your Zoom. So before I move on, any questions about why to clerk? And asking questions is a good thing, right? So if you have any questions, why to clerk? All right, second thing, how do I get a clerkship? Raise your hand if you'd like the answer to that question. Just raise your blue hand. Okay, your hands are up, put your hands down. So let's give you an idea. First of all, I want to tell you, you don't all have to be the same. In fact, you shouldn't be. Judges, and I want to encourage you to apply across the country. Now, there are some people for family or other reasons have to stay in Southern California, but think about it. Everybody who's been freezing their tuchus off on the East Coast during law school wants to come back to California to do a clerkship. And so we're competing against all of those, but Loyola does remarkably well. We do amazingly. We have more clerks than any other law school, but it's still very challenging if you narrow your geographic area. So I actually clerked, yes, in Camden, New Jersey, the arson capital of the world. But it was a magnificent experience, and it was only 1 year, and I saw a different part of the country, and I made connections with people for a lifetime. So if you have the flexibility, you really should be considering applying across the nation. What do you say, Professor Levinson?
Absolutely. It's all this time I thought it was Camden Drive, but yes, I mean, look, it's a numbers game, and you're going to be largely in the courthouse for that year. And most of you, it's so worth it to live anywhere for that year, again, because it's the thing that stays with you for your entire career.
And there are great judges everywhere. I happen to go to Alaska every year, right? Alaska. Some of the nicest judges, interesting, kind, welcoming people. They're in Alaska. They have to be. They live in Alaska. So, going there, and they know people across the nation. The other thing is, as Professor Levinson mentioned, there are different courts. So I clerked for the Third Circuit. That's a Court of Appeal clerkship. That's more like what the moot court experience is like, right? So we get the briefs, We examine the briefs. We always look outside the briefs because it'll shock you to know that people don't necessarily get the law right in their briefs. And you write bench memorandum for the judges, and you discuss how cases will come out, and you go to the arguments, and then you have to draft opinions. And that's one kind of experience. Professor Levinson, the younger, clerked on the district court. What was your clerkship like?
So obviously the district court is the trial court, and it's a different part of the legal process in the sense that that's when a case begins. And it's, in a way, it's like seeing civil procedure play out before your eyes. So you're there when the complaint is filed, and then there'll be a motion to dismiss. The case will proceed. If it does proceed, there'll be a motion for summary judgment, and you review all of the filings, and you're sitting there talking to the judge, and you're saying, I think this is what we should do. And then you can sit in on those hearings. Most of the judges will really prefer that you do. You sit in on the motion to dismiss, the hearing for that. You sit in on the motion for summary judgment. You can even sit in on the trial. So you really can see a case during the course of your clerkship, from complaint, sometimes even to jury trial. And it gives you that global sense, particularly for everybody who's going to be a litigator, of what you're going to experience in a way that, again, you can't replicate it in any other format.
And folks, you see good lawyers and you see not so good lawyers. My judge used to, we knew it wasn't a great lawyer when he would pass us a note. Everyone sees the clerk go up to the bench, and the note inevitably said, "Get me the no-dos." Right? So you really can see what's happening. There are also magistrate judges. Those are great opportunities. And those are ones who are dealing with things from civil discovery, Social Security, warrants, habeas corpus. And if that's what you apply to, we'll help you understand more what that job is about. Now, the first thing about getting a clerkship is being qualified to get a clerkship. And certain, levels of court have different requirements. Typically, the Court of Appeal is the most challenging court, unless you aim for the Supreme Court, and then you just have to get hit by lightning. No, we'll help you with that too, but it's obviously very challenging. For the Court of Appeal, two avenues, I would say. One, be very near the top of your class, top 5% probably, maybe top 10% with a lot of other things that go with it, like an editorship, or you won the moot court, or something really special. But they're really looking for the very top students, or they're looking for people who've done prior clerkships, because they know if you did a district court clerkship, you're bringing to your appellate court that experience and a better ability to evaluate what happened below. So it is not at all uncommon. In fact, I think it's more common than not that people might do two clerkships. And most of the time they will be district court to appellate court, but some people go appellate court to district court. Professor Donovitz, did you go appellate court to district court?
I did district to appellate, but I had a colleague in chambers with me at the circuit court who did circuit to district.
There you go. But she only stayed with judges named Pragerson, so that was her niche. Anyways, so you have to figure out where you're most competitive. We help you with that. And we don't turn you down. We guide you. We want your best. What's good for you is good for us. Magistrate judges, they don't look as much at the grades. They look at the full experience. And so frankly, folks, if you're in the top 25% of the class, we will help you apply for clerkships. And even if there are people who've signed on who are not, we will speak individually about you to see what opportunities there are. The other thing, as I mentioned, certain courts have much higher, ranking levels than others. And guess what? We're very familiar with that. So we will guide you. Now you have to meet us on this. You have to do a little research on finding out more about the judges. And so Linda has very helpfully put online our materials about clerkships, about how to find out about judges. Frankly, when we actually could go into a library, if you look at the front of F3rd, they lay out all the judges in that circuit and who appointed them. That will tell you the political background. But I want to tell you this, even if you think I'm a liberal, don't worry about applying to a conservative judge. I mean, there are some who are, and I will guide you. I will say, I'm not sure that'll be the best fit, but I clerked for a very conservative judge, and My co-clerk once said to him, Judge, why did you pick us? You're so conservative and we're so liberal. And he says, well, I know how I think. I want to know how you guys think. And it was a wonderful experience. So let's not play the political game. Those judges are people with tremendous experience and by and large, good reputations. And if they don't have those reputations, we know it. Likewise, we only want to put you in the chambers where you'll be treated respectfully. So if we know that there have been problems in the chambers, we will confidentially talk to you about that, because I don't want anybody in an uncomfortable situation. First thing, figure out where you want to clerk, where you're available to clerk, what level you want to clerk at. Second thing, know, as Professor Levinson said, you're going to be applying to a whole lot of judges. Now, I always worry when we do these programs. Everybody here said, well, I got 15 interviews. I got 10 interviews with OCI, right? It's not the same in this, Professor Levinson, is it?
Not at all. It's different in the sense that it's very unlikely for anybody to get 15 interviews, and we don't judge shop. So if you get an interview, don't go unless you're willing to take that clerkship. And if you get an offer, it is possible some judges will say to you in that interview, I'd like to give you an offer, because they want to, seal the deal, so to speak. And you don't judge shop. If you walk into the interview, it means you are comfortable taking that clerkship, again, barring some truly, truly extraordinary situation, which we would, as Professor Levinson said, we would screen beforehand. That it's and again, very rare, but it would be a judge where we wouldn't feel comfortable sending you. But 99.9% of the time, don't walk into the interview unless you're willing to take the clerkship on the spot. And I do want to reiterate just very briefly what Professor Levinson said. I clerked for a Republican appointee, and one, I think it's different on the district court because you don't have as many questions of first impression. But two, I learned an enormous amount, and I never perceived that what I was learning had anything to do with partisan political affiliation in any way.
Yeah, and last, remember, I think your judge actually married you, right? I mean, married you to your husband.
Yeah, I think that's still, but I do like the judge anyway. I mean, despite that, he's just a wonderful.
Okay, and should you mention in whose class you met your husband?
Well, and again, despite that, we're still friends too. So
Okay.
That's all of that is good.
All right, so you get the sense we're one big family. And that's what I want to mention, our secret weapon for getting new clerkships, which are our alums. They're incredible. And we have a clerkship committee of alums. They will help mentor you. They will open doors. We hear about openings before anyone else. We'll tell you the schedule about applying, but you need to know that new judges are being appointed all the time, or there are openings all the time. And those are great opportunities. The Oscar market, the big time in June when everyone applies, it's part of the application process, but it is not all of it. And we hit the ground running, and Linda Wysocki is amazing at getting things out the same day. So we rely on that a lot for our information. All right, what are you guys gonna have to put together? You need a resume, not the resume that Career Services approved. They're looking at that maybe for applying for a job or a firm. A clerkship resume is something very special. And we know what they're looking for. So you'll put yours together, and I don't want you to be shy and say, well, I don't know if this was, you put it all on there and we'll decide what edits out. That includes any writing you're doing. Even if your article was not accepted for law review, you will list the title and you will write to be published the following year. Because I can pretty much guarantee you guys, I can get you all published. Do you have any clue how many law reviews and journals there are in this country? So let's get it on there. The judges want to see writing. For your college experience, I know you all you were great social chairs. Whatever the organization was, you were great social chair, but that's not what we're emphasizing here. So if you wrote a paper for a seminar paper, or you worked for a professor, whatever, put it on there. If you studied abroad. On your chronology, start with the most recent experience. That means if you have a job coming up for the summer, it should already be on there. If you have an externship coming up for next year, it should already be on them. And we will edit all these down. I also strongly encourage you put community service, something that shows that you're about more than just you or special interests. And, you know, those are special to you. They don't have to be, I mean, you would be amazed. We've gotten people Ninth Circuit clerks because they played golf, right? And Judge Trott just, he didn't care. He just wanted somebody who could play golf and, you know, went to bars with him in the evening. Great judge though, you know? So, and there are new judges, as I said, coming up. We keep track of those. Do you have any sense of what should go on that resume, Professor Levinson?
So yes, I mean, everything you said, which is think about what you're going to be doing for the judges. You're going to be researching and you're going to be writing. And remember what a clerkship is. It's public service. So everything you have dealing with writing, list it. Everything dealing with research, everything again that could deal with community service. And it is easier for us to cut than to say, is there anything else we should be thinking about? You know, in terms of the interests, I had probably a so-so interview with my judge. And then he said, oh, I see you volunteered at the Getty. My wife and I are on the board at the Orange County Museum. And then we were able to talk like human beings. And I said, oh, I just went to this exhibit. I went to that exhibit too. And, you know, that for me, I'm sure opens the door because we spent a good deal of the year. Obviously, I tried to do good work, but talking about things that we have in common. And, you know, again, a lot of times it's a 3-person law firm. You really want to enjoy the people that you're working with. Sometimes it's going to be very early. Sometimes you're going to be working very late. And most of the people can do the work. You're also looking for that X factor of, I want to be this person's mentor for the rest of their lives. I want them to have my name on their resume for the rest of their lives. And so, yes, just to reiterate what Professor Levinson said, obviously, you know, the interest. And then in terms of, I think your question, Professor Levinson, probably was, what can you do in law school that a judge would be looking for? Law review is a huge thing to think about because again, what are you doing in law review? You're researching or site checking, you're writing. Experience in moot court. If you have extern for a judge, that shows that you already have dedication and interest working in judicial chambers. Being a research assistant, I think that is a great way to show that there's somebody who's a professor who picked you, again, to do something that's somewhat similar to what you would do in chambers. If you can take seminar classes where you can show, you know, I love legal writing, and then that will also help you really get to know a professor well. Because I know Professor Levinson was going to move to this, you know, part of the application is recommendations, and it is really helpful to get to know people more than saying they got an A+ asterisk, right? The person who can write you the best recommendation is the person who can say, I worked with this person as a research assistant in a small seminar. I know their writing, I know their researching skills, I know them, and I'm comfortable putting my reputation on the line and saying, take them. So what else?
Okay,
What
so
else am I missing?
I'm gonna, no, you're not missing. We're just going down it. So you're gonna need 3 letters of recommendations from professors. I often get the question, well, can they be from an employer or, you know, somebody I did a project with? Ask 3 professors. And then if you have additional, we'll figure out how those work for that particular judge. You can ask more than 3 if you want, because sometimes things will change. Those letters go to Linda Wysocki. She knows what to do with them. You don't generally see the letters, and that's sort of the protocol for how that's going to be handled. You will need a writing sample. Anything you did for your first year writing class does not qualify, okay? It doesn't count. So you're going to have to get something out of either a seminar class, law review, your summer job, just something, a project you took on for a professor, and preferably something that deals with federal law. You know, it's not 100% required, but what is required is that it be perfect, right? And it's fair to have other people look at it for you. We're not pretending that was only my work. You will, if you get something from an externship, have to have permission. So we put a cover page on it to say you have permission. And I'm often asked, how long does it have to be? I don't worry about that in the least, actually. If they want to read less, they'll read less. If they want to read more, they'll read more. And if you have a question of what I should use, you send them all to us and we will make that decision. You will need a transcript. You all know how to get that. Now, truth in transcripts or truth in your GPA. I often see people who say, you know, I didn't have such a great GPA my first quarter, and then there was the weird COVID and whatever. We can have those discussions, but we just want what your transcript's going to say, because that's what it's going to be compared to. And we can put into the cover letter any additional information. That gets me to the most important thing, your cover letter. Your cover letter is your writing sample. If you make a mistake in your cover letter, you ain't going anywhere on that big stack. And did we mention there can be 300 to 600 people applying for each clerkship? So you want to be the one that they want to look at. We will help you with that. You will write the first draft. And yes, we have samples, right, Linda, of sample cover letters. So you will write a cover letter. In the first paragraph, you'll talk about where you go to law school, how you've done in law school, maybe law reviewer, an externship. The next paragraph will be more background regarding you. The third one will say, excuse me, enclosed is your writing sample, your recommendations are coming under separate cover and the like. So, you know, you'll do the first drafts and we'll work with you on the final drafts. Any questions or anything I missed, Professor Levinson, regarding recommendation letters or cover letters or anything like that?
No, I think that, you know, one question I get is for our cover letters. Yeah, but that's in my resume. There's some things that you want to just be sure to highlight. If you're number 2 in the class.
Yeah, and if, especially if a professor has directed you towards that judge because they know that judge, then in that paragraph, it'll probably say something like, Professor Levinson has encouraged me to apply to you, right? And we know the way to reach out to judges. So we don't want you guys start making calls saying, please call Professor Levinson. Those judges know how to reach me and I know the appropriate way to reach them. But it is fair to put in a letter if you have somebody who has that type of contact or support that you're trying to get out of the stack of letters. Any ideas on that, Professor Levinson?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Professor Levinson mentioned is that we do have an amazing community of former clerks. And so when you figure out which judges you want to apply to, look to see which loyal alums have clerked for that judge and then ask to talk to them. I've never had anyone say no to that request. I've never heard of anyone saying no. And then you can ask and say, is it okay if I list in the cover letter that I had the opportunity to speak with you? It doesn't mean that you get off, but it would be very rare that I spoke to your former clerk, fill in the blank, and we were able to talk about, and that, you know, again, it's just another thing you're trying to get out of that enormous virtual or literal stack.
And the concept of networking takes on a whole new meaning in the clerkship world. It's a very small world. And that's why I want to remind you, treat everyone with respect, because you have a reputation. Once you ruin that, no, but you're untouchable, is what I would say. All right, timing. You're probably saying, well, when do I do all this? There's something called Oscar. Linda, you want to tell them briefly what Oscar is?
Oscar is the U.S. court system for, in theory, storing all information about federal clerkships for all judges, and everyone posts their positions there, and everyone abides by the guidelines that they set, and everyone plays nice, and everyone is fair, in theory.
Okay, so let me jump in here. You will all register on Oscar so that you can apply to all the judges who do follow Oscar. You want to do that, right? And so there is a site on our site, and Linda also is very patient in helping us. We'll help you get registered, and that will be a site in which you download all the information for when the judges are ready to allow you to apply, they'll take it from. Now, there's no honor among thieves. Oh, did I say that? There are some judges who don't necessarily follow Oscar, even when they're registered on Oscar. And we kind of know who they are. And if we think it's appropriate for you to be considered early, and I want you to know, it's not because we love some people more than others. There are personalities involved. We know what judges are looking for. We want these judges to sort of say, yes, you know, that's the best matchmaking I've seen. So as we see opportunities, we will get those to those judges outside of Oscar as well. To make that happen, I would strongly support that by finals. So what's why don't we say before finals? What, April 30th? By April 30th, you need to have to us all of the following things if you have not written them down. Your resume, your cover letter, your writing sample, your transcript, and you need to have asked 3 professors to write letters of recommendation. When you ask them, give them a copy of your resume. It'll be easier for them to write those letters. Offer to speak to them or give them any additional information they need. When they ask when they should have their letters in, April 30th. So you want to start asking people sooner rather than later. So my goal is, unless Jessica, you feel differently, is that if we can get these packages together by then, we will start having you. Now, the technical date in Oscar to apply is what? June what, Linda?
It depends on what year they're in. Basically, they get access the first week of June, and depending if they've completed 2 full years of law school, which once again is some use it, some don't, they have access to receive applications by mid-June, but others, the dates vary. And if you don't have 2 full years of law school under your belt, by the time you apply, in theory, you're not eligible until after you complete your 2nd full year.
Now, if you are one of, I think we had 2 people who are 3L who applied, you should be moving right now.
Everything is open, everything is available.
Everything's open. So if you have not yet sent all those materials to us, then you should do so. Now, you're probably wondering, who do I send it to, since there's 4 of us who are on the clerkship committee? And clearly, the most efficient and effective way to serve you is for us to divide things up. So I'm actually going to ask, if I hadn't run this by Linda, I'm going to ask you to send them to Linda Wysocki, because she could keep track of making sure they get out to us. She will give us, hopefully, a weekly report of whose materials she's received so that we can divvy them up and be in contact with you. If you have a special request, like you've been Professor Jessica Levinson's RA, obviously that makes sense for you to work with her. But otherwise, I want to tell you, I mean, I really respect my colleagues, and I know that we all work together collaboratively. We compare notes to make sure that you're going to get all the opportunities. I just would hate to see you sending all your letters to Professor Jessica Levinson, and then it would be nearly impossible for her to be able to juggle all of that. All right. You need to also go on the clerkship twin page. I think that's where the information is, to go through all that information to make sure you know what you're doing here. And with that said, one last thing. If you get an interview, of course, we prep you for all your interviews. You never go to an interview until we have done a mock interview for you, because it's not like, we even check out everything you're wearing. Are you kidding? No green shirts. I don't care who you are. No one gets to wear a green shirt to federal court. We will talk to you if, and COVID permitting, it's going to be an in-person interview outside the jurisdiction. We can financially help you up to about 50%. Liquor is not included, or movies in the hotel room, getting there to do your interviews. I'm going to suspect that most judges are going to be doing Zoom interviews, so we will do practice Zoom interviews for you. I think I wanted to leave enough time to get questions from people. Professor Levinson or Linda, have I forgotten anything?
Not that I can think of. Just one point, if anyone is having trouble getting on the twin site, either because they are about to lose access to their LLS email address, or for whatever reason, they can email me and I can add them with an outside email address to our twin site, they will not be able to add themselves outside of the Loyola website.
Okay, and so we're keeping track of everybody who was kind enough to come to this meeting today. That was the first great move you made. You know, in my experience, folks, people who want it the most usually get it. And we will pull out all stops to make sure you get these clerkships. Again, if you have a special relationship with a professor and you've worked with that professor, we will honor that. We want you to be comfortable. We want the professor to be, but we also share. And sometimes I'll start with a candidate and I'll send it to Jessica because I know that she might have more experience. So don't feel like you're being shuttled off. You are being put into the best capable hands. All right, questions. You know, come on, there's got to be something smart you can ask. Oh, good, Rebecca.
Hi. So I'm a 3L and I sent out my applications in June, and so I'm gonna do another round. And
Sure.
I assume that I should just send you all my updated materials, like updated resume, transcript, and all that good stuff.
Yes, let me say that, folks, nothing goes out without us seeing it. We are quality control. That's for your own benefit. Second of all, as Rebecca mentioned, sometimes you have to do multiple rounds. And it's not surprising for you that you would have to do it. Last year was a weird year. Maybe somebody noticed that we had a change in administration. Maybe somebody noticed that there are going to be judges leaving, judges coming in, and in COVID time, there were all sorts of things going on. I think we're going to start easing towards normal. And so, Rebecca, I'm happy if you want to be in touch with me because you're in a slightly different situation to get you back on track. Okay?
Thank you.
Charles Lamb, who are you?
I don't know who I am. Who are you, Professor Levinson?
Right.
For our letters of recommendation, is there a specific subject matter the professor taught that we should be looking out for, a specific work relationship? Would a legal writing professor be?
Legal writing are great. It's an excellent question, folks. So a lot of people think, oh, I need the professor who has the most titles after their name, sort of the most prestigious person. That's actually not the most important thing. You need a professor who knows you well. So if you work for a professor, if a professor knows your writing, they don't have to be the tenured faculty professor. They have to be a professor who knows you. With 3 letters, you're going to probably get a good combination of professors to talk about. If you extern for a judge, we typically do not ask judges for letters because of their own ethical code. What we do is ask them if they will serve as a reference when contacted. And if that's the case, you can put in your cover letter, Judge so-and-so invites you to contact him or her for further information. Okay? All right, Chloe.
Back to the cover letter. How personalized can we get with them if we are like tailoring them to specific judges? A lot of the examples online are pretty straightforward, matter of fact, and kept pretty formulaic. And I'm just curious, like, how much personalization should we be aiming towards if we are personalizing it for a specific judge?
Excellent question. So, to the extent you're applying outside of Los Angeles, judges will often look to see what geographical connection you might have. My family was from the Midwest, or I've, always wanted to study or whatever. And that's something to add to your cover letter. If that judge has had a unique experience that you want to do or you relate to, we'll do that. So I would say a combination, Chloe, is good. Some judges, generic's just fine. They're really just going to be saying, how well did you do? And who are your references? Check, check, check. Others, it's interesting. Like when you're applying to Kansas City, they might want to know what kind of barbecue you like. So that's how we can be helpful. And once we see your list and once we see your cover letter. Jonathan, your question is for the smarter, younger Professor Levinson. Go ahead.
Really? Okay. So I'm an international JD. So I was sort of wondering like how my visa status sort of affects like clerkships and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Can I, Jessica, do you want to answer this or do you want me to?
I would desperately want you to.
You actually have to be an American citizen to clerk, folks.
See, I thought so. Okay.
So yeah, so that's not my rule. That's gonna be, and you should know if you're on this Zoom, the judges do a security background, a full security background. So if you have issues, an indiscretion in college or otherwise, please be honest with us so that we don't get you into a difficult situation. Okay, Michael.
Hi. Yeah. The question, I realize we're coming up closer towards the end now of law school, but are there any specific classes you think are applicable to all
Terrific
clerkships?
question. Okay, if you're a 2L right now, folks, think about taking federal courts next year. It's a really hard class, but it's really great for clerkships and the judges value it a lot. If you're already a 3L, it's kind of late to sign up, but you know, if you're 2L again, administrative law is something that they see a lot of in federal court. Any courses that are writing courses, I think are beneficial. As Professor Levinson said, seminar classes are good because you learn a different way, a way that might relate more. Externships, what else, Jessica? What else?
No, I think that's, I mean, if you're going to apply to the Court of Appeals, maybe app ad. But absolutely anything where you're doing a lot of writing, federal courts, and there is did you just say this? And I was trying to see if I had raised my hand accidentally. The clerkship class.
Oh, there's the clerkship. I didn't mention the clerkship class. We actually have a clerkship class. Is that being taught by Vivian Center still? You know?
It's not.
Is
It's
it?
being taught by Professor Delfino, I think, because she
Okay.
was telling my ethical lawyering class that she's teaching it.
All right, so Professor Delfino is very experienced on the state courts as a clerk and research attorney. Sometimes we have a clerkship class that's taught by Vivian Center, who is Judge Klausner's permanent clerk. So you'll know more about those opportunities. We also have the Ninth Circuit Clinic that Paula Mitchell and I think Eliza Haney will do next year. They both clerk for the Ninth Circuit. That would be terrific. Judges would be very impressed by you actually handling a Ninth Circuit case. Nobody has asked me about doing clinics and still applying for clerkships. The answer is yes. You know, something that shows that you know how to deal with the real world and real clients, that's of value too. So this does not have to limit your law school education in any way. Noelle.
How does it work when we, like, let's say after these finals to update our transcripts or things that we get after April 30th?
Great question. So first of all, I'm not saying we're going to send everything out April 30th. That's when we start evaluating how we're going to send it out. So we may very well wait for the new grades to come in, especially if you think that's going to make a huge difference, right? But even if you've already applied, it's perfectly fine to send supplemental materials. And that's often a technique we use to get you moved towards the front of the pile, right? So, oh, by the way, just to recall. And so, you know, you're changing all the time. You're winning competitions all the time. I know that about you. And we'll make sure that the judges know as well.
Also on Oscar, you now have the ability, it used to be you had to manually input every grade on their grade sheet. You now have the ability to upload a simple PDF of your transcript. And you also maintain the ability, even though applications have been released to judges, you can still go in and update the transcript. That is the one document you still maintain all the way until a decision is made and the clerkship is no longer available. You can update that single piece of information on Oscar.
Let me make a couple other quick comments here, which is some judges want, quote, paper applications. I think if I were a judge, God forbid, I would do that. I just like touching the paper. If you're in that situation, you should be in contact with Linda Wysocki and myself. We know kind of what that means and what's it entail. It's been extremely difficult during lockdown, but I expect we'll have the ability to do that some more. What else was I gonna say? Oscar. So Linda is the queen of Oscar. I mean, she just is the queen of Oscar. I'm pathetic on Oscar. If you're calling me with an Oscar question, you've dialed the wrong number. So make sure you are emailing Linda. She'll get back to you regarding all Oscar. Can I see a show of hands of how many of you are currently already registered on Oscar? Is most everybody up there? Those who are not, do it. They can do it at any time, right, Linda?
They can. You do not have to be able to submit applications to be able to register on Oscar. You can register, you can look, you can poke around, and before the pressure is on is the absolute best time. They've just recently updated and gone to new, bigger, better technology, which personally I find more difficult to navigate. So spend some time when you have it instead of when the pressure's on.
You got it. And again, it's not the best use, I think, of professors' times to help you, since we are particularly pathetic with technology. We have stretched ourselves these 2 semesters, and I can't imagine we're about to learn something more. So sorry. Chloe.
Speaking of that, Linda, when we are uploading our transcripts to Oscar, I've had some issues with it being protected and then it being too big. Do you have ways for us to handle that? I'm assuming you do.
So the protected issue I have not seen before. I will tell you that an unofficial transcript is just fine. That's probably easier for you. So if you're on the registrar's website or Banner, whatever the official way is you do it now, you can get an unofficial transcript. If you get an error message that it is too large of a PDF, send it to me. I can reduce it many times. That's enough. Some people have the ability, some don't, but I can, and it takes 2 seconds. So just email it to me and ask me to reduce it so you can try to upload to Oscar. I'll understand what the problem is.
Perfect, thank you.
Zach.
Yeah, this is like this is kind of more specific to the situation where the person, me, like I would want to maybe work for a year first before clerking. So in that instance, should I still aim to send you the materials like ASAP?
Yes, because you're in a wonderful situation to be able to sort of what we would say pre-apply for those judges. There are judges who are hiring 2-3 years out. You now qualify. Why would you wait until all the rest of the great unwashed are applying? So I didn't mean it that way, but you get my point. Early bird here. Early bird.
And also, Loyola is quite unique in that we support you for your clerkships from now till you stop applying, no matter how old you are or unless I die.
God forbid. Toot. Noelle.
For our writing samples, if I'm applying to externships for next year, is it not okay to use the same writing sample?
It's writing samples. You can use whatever's a good writing sample. So I don't think anyone will say, oh, we remember this writing sample. But here's the deal. If you extern next year for a federal judge, you'll probably get a writing sample that will be great to use as you continue to apply. You know, I've been mentioning it throughout the program. There are 6 new federal judges that I believe will be appointed in Los Angeles. So, you know, and we've got judges going senior, there's a lot of movement right now. So it's more fluid than, oh, you know, OCI time. I put all the resumes in the file right now. It's not like that. You do want to have everything ready to go in June on the big drop day, but we want to have things ready from then on or even a little bit before that. I'm going to ask Professor Levinson if she has any final words of wisdom, as she often does.
Oh, you set me up for failure because I have 0. I have nothing except we're glad to see you. We're happy to help you. And the other thing is, look, we understand that it's a strange year for all of us. And so if you can't get us something until May 2nd, that doesn't mean you're not going to get a clerkship. We understand it. Please don't feel like you have to send an email to say, you know, these are the reasons. We get it. Just write pandemic coming soon. And we'll understand. We just want the time to be able to we want the time to be able to go through your application the way it deserves our time.
And I just want to say, stay tuned for further instructions. today was the first day that I even voiced that everything will go to Linda Wysocki. If after talking to the committee, we decide we want everything disseminated to all 4 professors, we will send you that message. Just follow the instructions and it'll be quite easy. Let me then end with thanking all of you for coming to this and thanking Linda again and often and with great love and sincerity for keeping us on the track. To the smarter, younger, more attractive Professor Levinson, to her as well. Hey folks, it's the beginning of a beautiful relationship. And I want you to keep in mind, we are not the dog-eat-dog world of OCI or any of that. We are a family. And I can help all of you. We can help all of you sincerely without hurting anybody. Because there are a lot of judges out there. And just like you are all different, they are too. The more flexibility you give me, geographically, timing, all of the above, the more we can help you. But I really would love if after this meeting you sort of said, I listened to it and it's the last thing in the world I want to do, will you let us know? But I hope that all of you will sort of take this opportunity to do something that will totally be life-changing. Okay? All right, did we tape this, Linda?
Yes.
So if you know anybody who couldn't get in on Zoom or, you know, had a conflict, have them contact Linda and she'll be posting this somewhere or have it available to
The
them.
recording will be posted on the Twin page. So as soon as it's available to me, which
Right.
will be sometime this afternoon.
And if you think we were lying to you, there's another program at 5 o'clock by Professor Dunovitz and Professor Levin, but I don't think that they're going to go over things much differently. So you don't really, I mean, I know you're all A+ asterisk people, but find something else to do, like go out in the sunshine or whatever it is, because I don't actually think you have to do that. You can follow up with individual emails. Once again, thanks, folks. Stay safe and get your vaccines when you're in line to do so. Okay? Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor Levinson,
Yes, gotcha.
or
Oh, it's Chloe. Go
well,
ahead.
Katya can go. I was just curious, do you want Charles and I to send stuff to Linda again, or do you?
No, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Hi, it's great to meet you. I've never had the pleasure of meeting you before, so this is a perfect opportunity. But
Nice to meet you.
I have a sort of silly question. If you have extern for a judge, can you apply to clerk for that judge?
Yeah,
Or are you
which judge is it? Some will take and some won't. Who is it?
I have Judge Klausner right now.
Yeah, he takes his own sometime. So you
Okay.
can apply.
Okay, perfect.
Most of them don't take their own, but he does.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
When are you extern? Right now?
Yeah, right now. I'm on my lunch break. Actually, I'm 2 minutes over my lunch break, but
You're at home, not in chambers, right?
we're in chambers 2 days a week. Normally we go in Mondays and Thursdays, but he doesn't have any hearings today, so we're going in tomorrow instead because he has a bunch of hearings.
Please give him and Vivian my regards, okay?
Of course.
All right, nice to meet you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, we're on, kids. Well, what'd you think?
We're still, Linda, should we stop the recording?
Sure.
I mean, not that, or I can stop it actually.